I'm excited to show you the process of making my mother's birthday gift for this year. It's this adorable Mushroom Village storage container I created using the Lawn Fawn Mushroom House die set, Mushroom Border die set, and the Oh Gnome stamp set. I will also use a die out of an older Lawn Fawn set called Fairy Friends to create the smaller mushroom cottage. I have most of it cut out and ready to assemble, so let's get started. I first need 3 boxes, which I cut and scored from the Lawn Fawn Noble Fur cardstock. These first 2 boxes are identical. The square measures 2.5 inches and is scored at 3/4 of an inch from the side on all 4 sides. This creates a 1-inch square box that is 3/4 of an inch tall. I'll set these aside to finish assembling later and demonstrate for you with this larger box. The larger square measures 6.5 inches square and is scored at 2.25 inches on all 4 sides, which creates a 2-inch square box with a 2.25 inch side. Creating these boxes is quite simple. After scoring all sides, I simply cut these slits on opposite sides like this, and then I take the 4 corner squares and cut a small right triangle off each of the 2 sides. This will give us wiggle room when gluing the box together. I then apply glue to one of my flaps and adhere it to the adjacent side to start to form my box. But I had a little hiccup in that the flaps were too long, as you can see here. This was an easy fix, as I just snipped a little bit off of all 4 flaps and it went together perfectly. I have all 3 boxes assembled now. I'll set them aside while I work on building the base. For the backdrop, I have 4 pieces of white 100-pound cardstock using the second largest die from the Lawn Fawn Scalloped Stackables die set, and 1 cut out of one of the perfectly plaid spring papers, also from Lawn Fawn. Oh, and I almost forgot. I trimmed the scallop off one of the long ends of each of these papers for a flat bottom. I lined it up on my paper trimmer so the piece is 4 inches tall. I used my dotted tape runner to attach the pattern paper to the first piece of white cardstock. This will ensure no glue lines will show through to my pattern paper. I've had this happen before and I'm not a fan. I then go about attaching 2 more of the white pieces with the Lawn Fawn liquid glue. Before I apply the last panel, I'm going to add a folded piece of paper to connect the backdrop and the base together. The connecting piece is a 5.25 inch wide by 4.25 inch wide tall piece of 100-pound white cardstock that I scored and folded at 2.125 inches on the short side to create a 90-degree angle. I applied liquid glue to one of the valley sides like so and set my backdrop in place to adhere these together. I then applied liquid adhesive all over the back so I could apply my last piece of white cardstock to it. This is a great place to leave a message for the recipient. I created a nice sturdy base with a piece of chipboard that I cut to 5.5 inches by 3 inches and wrapped in the Lawn Fawn Noble Fur cardstock. I then took a 3-inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock to cover up the open side for a nice finished look. I then applied glue to the bottom part of my 90-degree connecting piece and attached the backdrop. It was then that I realized that I should have waited to add the finishing piece to my base, because it would have covered up the white on the bottom as I had covered up the back. But alas, I was too late. No worries, I can just cut a second piece of 3 by 5.5 inch cardstock and add that over the bottom. Next time, I'll have to remember. The first step in building my scene is to create some grass. I take 2 pieces of the Lawn Fawn Noble Fur cardstock, the first of which measures 5.5 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall, and the second that is also 5.5 inches wide but 4 inches tall. I took the grassy border from the Lawn Fawn Mushroom Border set and lined it up at the very top of the longer side on each piece and die cut them. This next piece is a little bit more complicated. I then took 2 smaller pieces of the same cardstock that measured 2 inches by 1.75 inches and placed the same die so as to have the hill starting at the top right corner or top left corner, depending, I needed one of each, and going down slightly towards the opposite side. This will be for the front of the little boxes I've created. I need one for the left and one for the right. Next up, I'll line up and attach the 2-inch grassy slope to this mushroom border that I have pre-cut and decorated using some vanilla cardstock from back in my Stampin' Up! Days and some Lawn Fawn chili pepper cardstock for the mushroom caps. A quick trim of any excess vanilla cardstock, and this piece is attached to the backdrop using some liquid glue. Next, I took the larger grassy slope and attached that to the base. I have another unfortunate case of missing video footage where I'm actually attaching the 3 boxes to the scene I've created. Suffice it to say, I attached the middle box first and then the 2 side boxes using liquid glue in all instances. After I attached them, I made sure to press down with my bone folder to smooth out the glue and ensure a sturdy hold. I scored each of my small grassy hills at 1 inch and then added them to the front of the small side boxes and covered up the center box with this adorable mushroom house. I created a second house using the little house from an older Lawn Fawn set called Fairy Friends. I just die cut it in vanilla and chili pepper and cut the roof out of the chili pepper piece and then removed the stems that were on top of the roof. I think it turned out super cute. What do you think? I'll speed through this decorating to save some time, as it's really up to each creator how they decorate their scene. This will save us some time and allow me to show you how I created the pieces that stand up in the foreground. I use this method whenever I want to stand something up or have something pop up when a card opens. I'll link to a few other videos at the end if you'd like to check out some other fun scenes. One is a cute skating scene on a lake and the other is a carnival scene, rides and all. To create these little stand-ups, all I do is take a strip of acetate and attach it to the back of whatever I'd like to stand up, whether it be these little blades of grass, a wheelbarrow, or a gnome. I set each piece aside to dry as I continue through the batch of items I'm working with. When I'm done and the pieces are dry, which doesn't take but a few minutes, I crease and fold the acetate at the very bottom of each of the images I am standing up, and trim off all but about a 1/2 inch of the acetate, maybe even a little bit less. When all my little stand-ups are complete, I can place them in the scene to decide where I want everything placed before I glue them there permanently. And then I add glue to the acetate flap and adhere it to the base when I'm happy with the placement. I had several ideas of what to put in this little desk set. It's a little short for regular pens, and I didn't have any shorter ones on hand, so that wasn't it. When I was at Joann's the other day, though, I found some great options, which my mom ended up loving. In one of the smaller containers, I put a set of embellished paper clips. In the other small box, I put some matching magnetic page markers for when my mom wants to save a page in a magazine or a book she is reading. And then I decided to make some simple little thank you cards to fit in the larger box in the center. Now you may be asking, what is that green thing on our Misty? This is part of a cut-apart Cricut mat that I'm testing out and loving. If it continues to work for me, I'll be doing a video on it very soon, so stay tuned. I got these little card bases at Joann's right by the paper clips and magnets I already included in the desk set. I was able to fit 10 cards and 10 envelopes, which I was pretty happy with. I attached one of my little cards in the center of my Misty. With the sticky mat, I can attach the card wherever I like and never need a magnet to hold it down. I then center the thanks stamp from the big scripty word stamp set from Lawn Fawn and close the lid to attach it to the Misty. I used Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink, which showed up perfectly on this craft card base with 2 stampings. I wanted something simple that fit with the theme of the desk set, and I think these do the trick perfectly. I made note of where the card was placed on the grid and placed each of the subsequent cards in the same place, and before I knew it, I had 10 perfect little thank you cards. This was such a fun project to develop and make. The more I can make out of my stamps and dies, the better it gets. This may be one of my favorite projects to date, and as this is for after my mom's birthday, I know she loved it. Please let me know with the up or down thumb if you like this project today, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss my future content. Here are the other links I promised with some more projects featuring the stand-up elements. As always, thanks again so much for joining me today. Have a great week and happy crafting!